Welcome to Into the Wormhole. I'm Larissa Maestro, and this is my number one,
Lauren Lowen.
And we're going to talk about Star Trek for a while.
Yes, we have a theme.
We do have a theme. This week's theme is transporter accidents, of which there are many.
So first of all, we have what's this in front of me, this blue thing. We have a little Star Trek cocktail.
Oh yeah, we're drinking.
Yeah,
so if you want to make it and drink it while you're listening to this, it might make the episode
a little more bearable. Will sound a lot better.
Yeah.
And is Aldebaran, right?
Aldebaran
whiskey. I want to give credit. This is from joebartender.com because I don't know if you know this, but you actually can't copyright a drink recipe. So I want to give credit, where it's due.
You're so nice.
Oh, well, thank you. In case you're wondering, it's 1 cup Gatorade Frost, 1 cup ginger ale, and then 1 ounce of whiskey, your favorite whiskey.
Yeah.
And so part of me gave points to this because it was a unnatural kind of sci-fi-esque color. And then the other part of me was kind of like, I've never had a Gatorade drink. I kind of feel like, you got to try it once.
You got to try it one time. And to be honest, like my drink when I go out is a whiskey ginger. And this tastes very similar to just the drink that I had last night when I saw Nautilus.
A little more artificial.
Yes. Just it tastes bluer for some reason.
Oh, Gatorade. They have like the names. It's like Arctic Breeze or like Polar Bear Butt. It's just like it makes no sense. You can't tell what flavor it is. You're just like, well, it's blue, so it must taste blue raspberry-ish. I don't know. Yeah, I'd order another one of these whiskey drinks. So there's a lot of transporter accident episodes out there. There's some that are definitely more kind of noteworthy and scholarly, and we just think they're going to be tied into different episodes.
Yeah, like we're not going to talk about the mirror universe. I'm just going to put that out there for all y'all that are like, ooh, transporter accidents. This means the mirror universe. No, it does not. That deserves its own thing. Would have to talk about Intendant Kira. We're not.
That's a whole nother.
It's a whole other thing. So
can of Gawk.
Or it's a whole other can of Gawk.
I'll be here every day, people. Tip your waitress.
If Gawk was canned. Ew. Anyway, we just picked our top 3, our favorites.
These are just the ones we want to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, we chose 2 TNG episodes. We have Second Chances. We also picked Rascals, which we know a lot of you probably love or hate. And then we have Voyager episode Tuvix, which, holy shit.
Maybe one of the most divisive episodes of Star Trek that ever existed.
And I kind of love because you would think that Tuvix might be like the goofiest of the 3.
Yeah.
But it's really not.
It's the most emotional one. Actually, 2 of these are from season 6 of Next Generation.
They're really close to each other, which I was surprised about.
But even that episode, Realm of Fear with Barclay and all the transporter shit that happens in there, that's season 6. It was like they were just like, all right, transporter episode. Cool, another transporter episode.
Yeah, and that one we were going to talk about, but then I had to be annoying and being like, actually, I don't know if this is an accident. It's just...
You're right.
And so we picked some very scholarly episodes.
We picked some fun ones.
So let's, so we're going to talk about Second Chances first. If you don't mind giving us just like a really quick run through.
TNG, season 6, episode 24. This is the one, if you don't remember, with the second Commander Riker.
The proposed title for this was Too Many Rikers! !
Did you know that Jonathan Frakes played both Rikers?
I did not.
So in this episode, the Enterprise is going back to a science station which Commander Riker had helped evacuate 8 years prior when he was serving on the Potemkin. They go back there. They beam down to the station. They're trying to get some data from the computers there. And in walks another Will Riker with a torn up lieutenant's uniform on, like it's been burned off his body somehow, and he's like all dirty and his beard is all big.
Oh, it's not though. He perfectly looks like the Riker on Enterprise. That's what I love, actually.
But his beard is different though. His beard is a different shape.
But it's not like Mountain Man beard.
No, it's like he's been cutting his own beard for the past 8 years.
You can tell that it was like they got dressed and then the intern walked over and it was like, Johnny, we need to mess up your hair. It up. There you go.
Or it seems like maybe he grew his beard out for a little while, or they put extra beard on his cheeks because it's like it's like wider. It's not as like groomed.
Yeah. The poker scene later in the episode, that's the best moment where you can compare.
Right.
But no, he actually has like a different beard for his double. It's higher on the cheeks and then it goes all the way to the lip. Like Riker traditionally has like a little bit shaved
underneath his
lip.
and
then has like that kind of like soul patch area filled in. Yeah. So I do appreciate that it is a little different. But in my mind, he has like the Mountain Man beard from, if you remember the episode where Worf like starts going through the different times.
Yes.
And they end up at the very end, there's like all the Enterprises and one has like the Borg Enterprise.
Yes.
Yeah, and Riker is just like got a crazy beard and he's like, we're not going back. The Borg have taken over. And I thought he looked like that in this episode. And
but
he didn't.
Really doesn't. He's like, he looks like he's been taking care of himself.
Yeah.
Okay, so they find him and he's been there alone for 8 years. Somehow he still is his own charming self,
sane,
and
we'll
sane,
get to that.
and like not talking like Nell from Nell. So they get him back, and the important things that happen are that he's still in love with Deanna Troi, which is a huge deal because they were supposed to meet on Risa after he got assigned to the Potemkin, but after Commander Riker was beamed back and Lieutenant Riker stays on the science station, Will's career started to explode and he started to get promotions, and then their relationship kind of fell apart. So Deanna like still has like some sadness in her heart about it. So it's this is why it's called Second Chances, because it's this whole thing about like them like rekindling this relationship that they had, like giving her a second chance to actually do something about it. But then of course, end of the episode, he's like, I'm leaving.
Yeah. By the way, are we going to call him the second Riker? Is he second Riker? Do we want to call him Lieutenant Riker? Do we just want to call him Tom? Spoilers, but...
Yeah, and then he decides he's going to take his middle name.
Yeah, because his full name is William T. Riker. I kind of... Are you a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Absolutely, yes.
I kind of love to think that it stands for the, like, Crow T. Robot. It's like the
Riker.
William the Riker.
Oh, William the Riker.
But yeah, so to make sure we're not confusing, maybe we should just call him Tom.
Yeah, let's call him Tom.
So yeah, and like we just said at the end.
Sorry if we spoiled this episode for you. It came out in the 1990s.
Yeah, spoilers. So like you said, that the transporter accident part is because apparently when Riker did this assignment 8 years ago, there was some sci-fi-ness.
Yeah, there was some tech. There was some techie tech.
Sorry.
Trek tech.
I didn't even remember the name of like the ship he was on 8 years ago. I'm gonna leave the details to you.
They like tried to beam him up, but they weren't getting a strong enough signal, so they tried 2 transporter beams at the same time on him so they could get a stronger signal. One of them was working fine actually, and they beamed him up. The other one like still had his whole pattern in it and bounced off the atmosphere or something,
it was like,
and then
whatever
bounced
the interference
back.
Part of the episode is that they can only go back to this station at a certain time because there's we've watched so many episodes that it's all blurring together. But
some
like,
sort of
there's ion storm, blah blah blah
thing.
blah.
There's a weather thing. There's a future weather thing that happens, and they only have 8 hours at a time.
Yeah, it basically means like years go by before it's possible to even visit that station and the planet. So that's why so much time has gone by.
Yeah,
and
there are all kinds of unreasonable obstacles in place to make sure things happened the way that they happened in this episode.
First of all, Riker's very well adjusted for somebody who's been, I didn't think it was 8 years when I rewatched this.
Yeah. That's a long ass time to be by yourself. And then he's like in sick bay and Beverly's like, wow, this bone was broken. He's like, yeah, I said it myself. And he's like smiling. He's like, all right, I'll be in my quarters. Like he's just fine.
I think they give it like one line of dialogue in 10 Forward when he's with Troy later.
Yeah,
and
he's like, it's
how
weird.
is it being around people? And he's like, fine. And then he just goes, it's strange.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, he says something about like it's weird talking to people and like
not being able to do whatever I want all the
yeah,
time.
and I'm like, I'm pretty sure people would have more serious issues to deal with.
And like also she's a counselor. I feel like she would be diving into that more. I was actually surprised that there was not more like counseling. I mean, I'm not surprised because there's actually not that much counseling that happens on the Enterprise, like really. But I was surprised. I mean, thinking about the whole thing that happened, it's a traumatic experience for both of them. Shouldn't there be counseling for both of them at this point? Like, that's important.
Basically, his only
not.
issue is that he can't wake up on time for the mission.
Yeah.
He's just late. He's like,
fine. And he's like insubordinate to himself.
Yeah. That's the other thing I'm kind of curious about because... And I mean, obviously, TV was different. This is 45 minutes. We got to get in. We got to get out.
Yeah.
Like, we know that. So
yeah.
a lot of things are just sort of like sped up. We don't have like a whole season to work with these story arcs.
Yeah.
But also...
And we're not even going to remember that this happened in the next episode.
Right. It's just like, man, forget about it. So Riker's just immediately kind of a jerk to himself.
He's so mean. Okay, in my notes, I have Riker's kind of mean. And then I have Thomas is so smiley. I also have the Rikers are very mad at each other.
Yeah, I kind of feel like if I ran into a double of myself and found out they went through something horribly traumatic, I feel like I would be bending over backwards to...
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't totally make sense to me for Riker's character, though. He's a really compassionate character. And it seems weird that he'd be so negative right off the bat. Like, he's not...
He's very, like, hostile.
He's really hostile.
And I actually liked that little bit of dialogue that Wesley and Worf have later where Wesley...
Or Data and Worf.
Oh, it's Data.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Wesley. God. Like,
Wesley.
Confusing Wesley with Data? Like, how horrible am I?
No.
But, yeah, and Worf's just like, maybe you're mad at your double because you see something you don't want to see.
Yeah.
Whether it's like something you left behind or something you just are.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's kind of just randomly like sprinkled in there.
Yeah. It's like, oh, maybe this is what you should be watching for.
But right.
This is what we're doing. This is what we're talking
episode's
about.
over in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
by the way. But I feel like there should have been at least like a little bit more of a slow burn where he was like fine, but maybe once he starts talking to Troy, it gets weird.
Yeah.
Or, you know, maybe he just gets frustrated with his double for some reason. He embarrasses, like he kind of embarrasses him by being late, but I feel like he's just mad at himself even before that's an
like
issue.
if they waited until he was like, but I know the station better because I was here for 8 years, so I'm not going to do what you just asked me to do, then that would make more sense to me.
Wait, is this the Nightingale episode?
Nightbird.
Yeah. Darn it.
Or if like he could play Nightbird.
I was about to say that would be perfect if he picks up the trombone and he nails it. So
and he just nails Nightbird.
The beginning of the episode is this wonderful 10 Forward scene where
I love the beginning of this episode
where Riker is playing the trombone. I mean, he's playing trombone with two other musicians, and
he's in a little jazz trio.
They are jamming. They are just feeling it. And Troy and Beverly's really feeling it too.
Yeah.
She's just like da, 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 da.
They're like jazz.
Yeah. And so the joke is that Troy requests Riker to do Nightbird.
And he can't play it.
And he can't play the solo, but he gets saved by the bell, so to speak, because he gets called to the bridge. And so, yeah, that should totally be it.
Oh, man.
Like his
We're
clone.
making this episode so much better right now. Oh, my God. His clone shows up with, like he's
Tom,
like, hey, can I try it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a missed opportunity. I'm really upset. Anyway, yeah, so my question about this episode. Okay. So we never, ever hear anything about this transporter malfunction ever again. And this seems like one that would be like the Romulans try to get a hold of this.
Oh,
like,
sneaky.
You know what I mean? And they're like, oh, we're going to slip another transporter beam in there. And basically we're going to get a second person.
Yeah.
And then we'll be able to do, I don't know, like get information from them. They'll never, like the Federation will never know that they're missing.
Yeah.
They're disposable.
Because they've had enough like sleeper agents.
Right?
I feel like.
I'm saying like somebody finds out about this. This seems like a big deal. Like Starfleet headquarters, like, what is it, Section 31 or whatever, like does some like research on it, like really like tries to replicate the accident so that they can like have again. Like two, like they can have a bunch of twin agents around or whatever. Like this just seems like a missed opportunity. They were just like, oh, this is how it happened. Okay, now we have 2 Rikers. Never going to talk about that again.
Yeah, you think that information would kind of get out to people, like, hey, did you hear about what happened?
Right?
Too like, many Rikers.
Or like did you hear about the extra Riker?
So Troy, Troy's starting to explore with Tom, and as Beverly points out, just because things didn't go well with Commander Riker doesn't mean she can't explore what will happen with Lieutenant Riker. So I'm written curious,
down here, poor Deanna.
I'm curious because I feel like you are definitely more attached to Deanna as a character than I am. So I'm really curious about your perspective.
So in my notes right here, I have, wow, he just put a lot of pressure on Deanna. So she goes to see him to like, because she's the counselor and she wants to make sure he's okay. And she just told the bridge crew that she would talk to him for them, or like, see what's going on. And he like immediately just like plants a big one on her and calls her Mzadi like right away. And then she's like, whoa. And then he's like, the only reason I'm still alive is because I like hoped I would see you again. Oh my God. Like that's so much pressure to put on someone like right away. And he's like, I'm still in love with you. And she's like, Commander Riker and I, like, it didn't work out and we're really good friends now.
Also,
and everything's fine.
It's been 8 years. So for all you know, I'm married and have like 5 kids. So.
Right. He didn't even ask her if she was like in a relationship or anything. So like that was like, oh my God. Clone of ex-boyfriend who's now one of your closest friends comes out of nowhere and just kisses you. Like, think of just an ex-boyfriend of yours that like you might be friends with. Like, no. I'd be like, what? Whoa. It's been 8 years. I'm past this now.
And maybe we can, even though he seems to be pretty well adjusted, maybe we could say with the aftermath of everything and the shock of being back on the Enterprise and seeing her, maybe he was
really
going to say excited.
Lonely. Yeah.
But like just the adrenaline of it all. Like, oh my gosh, you're here and you're seeing me.
Yeah.
This must all be happening. This is all I've thought about, pretty much, like you said.
He also did just, like, kiss her without her permission, though. Just, like, out of the blue.
Which also, like, in Tuvix, there's kind a like, some touching that's a little, like...
questionable consent. Yeah.
But it's meant to be a romantic moment.
And
like,
it's the 90s.
We're not condoning it, but, like, we understand. It's supposed to be a moment where he's just overjoyed.
Yeah. And the kiss is weird, though, too. He's just like...
Oh, yeah. She's
it's an awkward kiss.
Yeah. I think that's more the problem than anything.
Such an awkward kiss. But yeah, so it seems like it would be a lot to handle. That's a lot to deal with. But then like there's that cute little scavenger hunt that like she obviously loved.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's obvious that like they do have a connection, and I mean that makes total sense because she and Will are such good friends. I love their relationship on the show, like the fact that they're so affectionate with each other, but they still have romantic relationships with other people, and they're totally fine with that. It feels like one of the more evolved relationships in Star Trek to me, because they're not jealous and they just like love each other and they want to be in each other's lives, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, they care for each other.
Yeah, but like very deeply.
But it's never that cliche of like, oh, one of them is always with someone else and the other one's always pining.
Like they're not pining, exactly. Yeah. Like they're fine.
And they finally do get together.
They do.
After the series.
But there's no like, will they, won't they? It's
that's very true. I mean, they have her with Worf by the end of the show.
So it's like everything just makes sense, and it doesn't feel strange ever. So like
except this episode
where there's too many Rikers.
So many Rikers.
Too many Rikers. I really, really like that moment that she has with Will where he's like, you don't have to ask for my permission, and then she says, how do you feel about it? And he's like, flattered.
I know.
And it's kind of sweet. Like, it's because the way that he is with her is very different than the way that he is with Thomas. Like, with Deanna, he's like, I want you to be happy. And with Thomas, he's like, I fucking hate you. But then he's like, here's my extra trombone.
I don't think he has an extra trombone. I think the whole point is
he replicate a trombone?
No, I think he just says at the end, because when I watched it again, I thought about that point you made. I think he just says, I have so many things in our room that are both of ours. I figure I can at least give you this. So he might replicate another one for himself, but I feel like he
gave him the trombone.
He original.
He should have just played Nightbird right there.
Yeah, just been like, drop the mic and like leave.
And then get on the transporter pad and go. Bye.
So Troy basically decides to give it a chance. Like, they share a kiss, and which, like, she initiates and stuff. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's she's totally in.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing about it that's non-consensual at that point. They're cute. They're being cute.
Yeah.
They're doing it on purpose.
Cute scene.
Yes.
And so, of course, what happens later is it's sort of like echoes of the past where Riker is given another position on another ship. Picard pulls some strings, and they have an assignment for Lieutenant Riker, which is a big deal because he's been non-existent for the last 8 years, basically, according to Starfleet.
Oh God, and that's like such a sad thing too when he's talking about like the hardest thing was that he thought that everyone thought he was dead.
Yes.
He's like, I thought there was like a funeral for me and like, or like a memorial service, and that like, you know, people were crying and people were sad that I was gone, but in reality, like, people didn't even know I was there.
Yeah, and life went on in somebody else.
Yes.
You know, basically, I put that in quotes.
Like, that
was
is
living
so
his life.
sad.
Yeah. You know, he also has decisions to make along the theme of second chances about is he going to be as career oriented, or is he going to follow this Troy thing?
Yeah.
Now, he does bring up a really good point. Like, he can't really stay on Enterprise with original Riker.
Yeah, he
original
can't.
Recipe Riker. That would, you know, that's just
So does that
probably
mean that Thomas is extra spicy?
He might be.
Or extra crispy?
And so he's like, hey,
when they
I
first
can
find him,
leave.
he's extra crispy.
Right,
and then he becomes extra spicy. later.
So he leaves and basically says, hey, after 6 months, though, I can bring family aboard and you could join me, Troy. And she says, that's the line you gave me originally with Commander Riker. And so it's sort of like it's going to repeat itself. But she just says, like, I'm not ready to leave just yet. And so it kind of like
leaves it open, but then we never hear from him again, though.
And then he joins the Maquis.
Yeah.
In Deep Space Nine and has a goatee.
I know, good. And it's hitting on Major Kira.
Yes. And then it's just like, okay,
Wait.
I guess that didn't happen.
Well, that didn't work out. Cool. And like, he's not at their wedding in Nemesis. Like, he's not, it's not like, you know.
Can you imagine if they snuck that in?
If they snuck in an extra Riker at the wedding.
He's like the best man.
I wish he'd just like been a wedding guest.
He's in the band.
Or he's in the band.
He's in the wedding band.
He's in the wedding band.
And he's doing
and he plays Nightbird.
Yes. See, it all comes around, people. It all comes around.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much second chances.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
Would you want original Recipe, Riker, or are you a Tom gal?
Yeah, this was a question that we talked about on Hot Minute when I was on Hot Minute.
I know.
And I didn't answer it.
Oh.
Because I don't know.
Do you have a beard preference?
I think I like the more natural beard.
So Tom's
beard.
Okay.
But also, like, Tom is so
extra crispy.
So extra crispy. I think OG. I think I'm an OG Will Riker fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ashley Spurgeon said Thomas because he'd been alone for 8 years, so he'd.
Oh yes.
He'd be ready to go.
Oh. Or it would maybe be way too fast.
Yeah, it would probably be really quick.
Anyways.
What about you? What do you think?
I don't know. It's funny, beard-wise, I prefer original Riker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also, I think, on the fence. Can I just pick Data?
Sure, you can just pick Data.
Yes, all right.
Yeah.
All right, is that wrapping up?
I think that wraps it.
Okay, so we're moving on to Rascals?
Yeah, let's move on to Rascals.
Okay.
So this is another transporter accident that happens in the same season as Second Chances.
It feels...
But earlier in the season.
I could have sworn, if you had asked me, I could have sworn that Rascals is like a season 3 or 4 thing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's so late.
Yeah.
which just is not a bad thing. I just don't know why. I was like really surprised to see it so late in the series.
It's like, did all these actors just want a day off?
But it makes sense because it has Rose, like, so it has to be later.
Yeah.
Because she's not in the very beginning. Directed by Adam Nimoy.
Yes, I have that in my notes as well.
Spock's son, who just married Dax.
I know.
So hey, a little Star Trek love connection. This is sort of like Home Alone in space a little bit, but basically,
oh my god, that's perfect.
Basically, we have 4 characters that are coming back to Enterprise.
Sorry, Joe Pesci would be a
shuttlecraft.
hilarious Ferengi. I'm just
Oh my god, terrifying.
Joe Pesci as a Ferengi. If there's anyone out there that can like make a graphic of Joe Pesci as a Ferengi,
Please send it.
please
to
send it. I don't know.
Larissa.
Just like put it on the internet and find me. I don't know. I just need to see that.
So basically, you have Picard, you have Keiko O'Brien, you have Ro, and you have Guinan, who are all coming back to Enterprise on a shuttlecraft after visiting a planet. And again, they get stuck into some mysterious, sci-fi cloud. I am not good on the sci-fi stuff. I apologize.
I mean, you might as well just call it a mysterious sci-fi cloud, because it's
Star
one of
Trek
those
cloud.
like there's like a moment where they're trying to describe what it is, and I think I just wrote down what. It says, wait, what did I say? This is what I wrote down: reversion field, ? Key sequences, ?
Also RVN, which we'll get to.
Yeah, and then I wrote, this is complicated and fictional.
They're coming back on a shuttlecraft. They cross through an anomaly, and when they get teleported back, surprise, they are all 12-year-old children. And hence the name Rascals.
That's so hilarious.
It's interesting because the first part of this is sort of the humor that naturally comes with all these characters, especially Picard. But then what basically happens is on their way to, I forget if they're on their way to the mining colony already or if that happens after they get back, but they have 2 Romulan bird of preys decloak right next to Enterprise, and Ferengi have them.
Oh,
we love the Ferengi. And they have like commandeered them. Like they were being repaired and they somehow like grabbed them in the shipyards or something. So these Ferengi happen to basically take over the Enterprise, which is pretty silly. And then they are beaming down all the adults, only the adults coincidentally, to this planet to mine out the materials that they want.
Yeah.
And it all has to do for profit, obviously. Because they're
it's
Ferengi. And it's just how Picard and his comrades, who are now children, how these pipsqueaks, these rascals, basically take the ship back.
Pipsqueak.
Pipsqueaks.
Yeah.
And shenanigans and hilarity ensues. It's funny because I went to research this episode. I'm always curious kind of what the fan reaction has been. And I thought a lot of people were going to be really come down heavy on the premise of the child actors because they're a big element of this. And I'm actually surprised like how many fans are completely okay with the premise and the child actors.
Yeah.
But when the Ferengi show up, they're like, oh God, the Ferengi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're, I mean.
Yeah. How do you feel about Ferengi in TNG?
I don't feel like the Ferengi are done right until DS9.
I have the same. I think by Deep Space Nine, they knew what to do with them.
And they had depth. They finally had depth. But in this episode, they're just like bumbling idiots.
So if memory serves me right, what's really interesting about the Ferengi is that when they made The Next Generation, they decided they needed a new threatening species of alien. They had already done the Klingons, and they were like, we need something new for TNG. And they introduced the Ferengi. Like, they were supposed to be the big threat. And I don't know if you remember in the early episodes, they have like the furs with the lightning behind them, and they have those like laser whips.
Yeah, and their teeth are scarier.
And they debuted, and it kind of was just a flop. They just were like little goblin-y gremlin things. So I always felt like in TNG, they were trying to figure out what to do with them.
It really just seems like they used the Ferengi because it's kids that have to take the ship back.
Yeah, like no one's going to believe the kids.
So they're literally like running around and like tapping him on the shoulder and being like, tag, you're it. And they're like, what? It's exactly Home Alone.
And the antics, basically, yeah. So they take the kids and put them in the classrooms. And, they're using like Alexander's toy.
Yeah.
I call it Space Roomba in my notes. They use the Space Roomba to like lure a Ferengi out of the teleporter room.
Is an idiot and just like
follows it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of coincidences, and I feel like the Ferengi are the only ones that you could like. It's already a stretch, but it's like, well, we can only do this with the Ferengi.
Yeah, like a Romulan's not gonna follow a toy into the hallway.
It'll zap it.
Yeah, it'll just destroy it, or it'll just be like, what even was that? This is like all hijinks.
Hijinks is a perfect word for this. A lot of people think this episode would be stronger if they really just focused on the whole kid aspect, like the idea of what does this mean for all the characters? Because I actually think they picked 4 really good characters to do this to, and they're all reacting very differently. I mean, obviously, Picard is the captain of the ship, and so he's trying to just act like everything's normal.
Yeah. Oh, and and that kid is so good too. Like, I feel like they cast the kids pretty well. I have issues with the Keiko casting because I'm like, now she looks Filipino, and also Rosalind Chow is Chinese and Keiko O'Brien is Japanese. There's
and I've maybe this is a good chance for you to point out that, you know,
I'm Filipino.
Yeah, and we've had conversations about, especially again in the 90s, how if people
just get an Asian kid.
People were cast as different things and what that has meant.
Yeah. So like I have that issue with it. The other kids, though, the kid that plays Baby Guinan also played Baby Whoopi Goldberg in Sister Act.
Yes. I like the idea of just being a professional kid actor that plays younger versions of other actors.
Adult actors. So good. And she's wonderful, and she like looks like Whoopi, and she's a good actor. And then the kid that plays Ro Laren is awesome. I thought she was one of the better actors. And then little Picard played his nephew.
That's right, and Family.
Yeah.
Right after Best of Both Worlds. That's the same kid actor who plays his nephew, or uncle, as the running joke in that episode is. A lot of people point out that it's the Keiko O'Brien scene that really kind of is the highlight of this episode, because obviously Kid Picard, there's interesting conversations he has with Troy and other people about, you know, you could go back to the academy, or, you know, you have a chance to kind of study another interest and still be the youngest admiral in Starfleet.
Yeah. And be Wesley Crusher's roommate.
Yes, and be Wesley Crusher's roommate. You know, Ro never had a childhood. That's
my favorite.
Yeah, she was in a Bajoran like work camp for the Cardassians. So she's actually very bitter about being a kid. For her, it just reminds her of a very unpleasant time of her life.
It's so wonderful. I mean, already Guinan and Ro's relationship has been set up. Then you get to this episode and like Guinan's just still like poking at her, which is so cute. And Guinan is like so comfortable being a child. She's like, yeah, let's do this. Let's jump on the bed. and Ro's like still so mad about it. And Guinan's just being a really good friend. It's wonderful to see that relationship happen, because like that's what Ro needs the most, is a good friend. And Guinan's like, I'm really good at that. I'm going to do it.
And it kind of really isn't to the end of the episode. Ro she's the last one to be put back and fixed, but she takes a minute to kind of enjoy. First of all, like if you look at the end, she's doing crayons. She's doing like crazy good pieces with crayons. I love that about this episode.
I love that you noticed that. You're like, wow, like, she's good.
Yeah, I was like, as somebody who has had their art like appear on TV shows and bought, I just love the idea of someone doing these really masterful pieces. And they're supposed to be like kid drawings.
Yeah.
But she's like a master artist.
But she's an adult. Her brain is an adult.
Yeah, but
brain.
Still.
Yeah. But like does she know how to use
she
her?
Has like crayon. She has like the pack of crayons that get you at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And she's like, look at this amazing piece.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the end, like she's finally coming around to enjoying this second childhood, and Guinan is full size again, not fun size.
Yeah.
And she's like coloring with her. But Keiko, even though a lot of people might think Picard has the most to lose because he's the captain, I actually think Keiko does, because Picard, if he stayed that way, could obviously, like eventually be a captain again.
Yeah.
Keiko is married and has a kid, and if she doesn't get corrected, like she and O'Brien have this scene, which is humorous and sweet and bittersweet all at once.
Yeah. And also Miles is so weird.
Oh gosh, yeah. Miles is very awkward. It's played wonderfully, but he's sitting uncomfortably on the couch and watching his now 12-year-old wife like get stuff off the shelf, but she can't reach it, so she's taking a stool and reaching up, and he's like, I think I'll get some coffee, and she's like, oh, let me. And he's like, double sweet. And she's
Yeah,
like, I know. Like,
I'm your wife.
I'm still your wife.
Yeah.
And he's, obviously because of the age difference now.
Yeah.
Like, and not just the age difference.
He feels
But
weird.
the fact that she is 12 years old. He feels very awkward about all this. And then it's heartbreaking because Molly, their daughter, comes in and wants a story.
Oh, that's so sad.
Wants a story to be read to her. And 12-year-old Keiko says, great, like, what do you want me to read to you? And she says, not you. I want mommy. And as a parent myself, that kind of broke my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so the
God.
idea that if she would grow up, but she would permanently be at an age where she would be more like Molly's older sister.
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know what.
But she, like, loses her relationships, basically. Is what happens.
Like, that to me. And some people said, man, if they just had the whole episode be that, I would love it.
That's some real sci-fi shit right there. Like, what would happen if you were just a kid forever? What would happen? Absolutely. And you're totally right. She does have the most to lose. I have a lot of little notes here, one of which is Picard and his hair. Very cute.
Yeah.
There's that shot of him like touching his hair, and it's like he's like, wow, I have hair. You know, he's upset about being a kid, but he's also like, oh, I have hair. And then at the very end, when he gets beamed back into being an adult, then he like slowly touches his bald head, and it's so cute.
It is cute. Do you think it goes against the whole like Roddenberry idea that like in the 21st century, like nobody would care?
I mean, I think it's just like a reminder of what you once were,
sure,
you know, like, and just like it's a tactile feeling, you know,
sure.
like
habits,
maybe he's not like, I don't think that he cares that he's bald, but like he then just was 12 again.
Yeah.
You know?
And just that habit of like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah, like, wow.
I can run my fingers
It's
through
different.
my hair.
Yeah, like, or when you like I a few years ago cut my hair off really, really short, and after I did that, it was like, whoa, where did it all go? You know? And like just taking a shower and washing my hair was weird. So I can imagine that being, and it was cute to see them both doing that. They also wrote and directed so many little character traits into the kids' movements and the things that they did that were very good, especially with the kid that played Picard. Like when he like stands up and he stands in his window and he orders his tea and he's like
a little
looking
Picard
at his,
move. You get a lot of those.
Pulling down his shirt. Yeah, all of that stuff was really, it was nice.
Yeah, and the Guinan kid actress, it really has that kind of stoic quality that, you know, Whoopi gives to Guinan. So I did feel like when I was watching it, I could imagine the dialogue being given by like the full size characters. I like how I say full size and not like adult.
Full size.
Half order.
Half order, full order.
I only have one more note. I just want to say I love the graphics on the kids' computer because that's one of the fun, that's one of the fun thing about watching these old episodes is just all the graphics because it is late 80s, early 90s and so forth. And it's this fish and it reminds me of the Microsoft Word, like Clippy, the paperclip.
The paperclip.
Because this fish is like, hello, like, would you like to see some interesting animals? And I half expect it to be like, can I help you take the ship back from the Ferengi? May I be of service? Which, of course, it doesn't.
It doesn't, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How do you feel about Picard's temper tantrum?
No. I want to see my father. I want to see him now. No. And it reminds me of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like he should be... Is it Veruca Salt? That's the really bratty character.
Yes.
I want the world.
Yeah.
I want the... It just... He feels like some snotty kid in that moment.
And but it also really does feel like this is like the way that Picard imagines that children have temper tantrums.
This is Picard acting like a child.
Yeah.
And that's a point that Guinan makes in the classroom. She says, you know, we're kids. Maybe we should start acting like kids. And so... It's kind of silly. Like the Ferengi really would probably just hit him over the head and shove him back in the classroom. But he gets annoyed with little Picard and takes him to the bridge to his father, who is Riker.
It's so cute. I mean, it's
He's
funny.
my number one dad.
Oh my God.
It's
but
wacky.
Also wacky, but also makes so much sense. And I have written down here, I love their cute plan. Because I do. It's great. It's very cute. It's well thought out. It makes sense to me. I also have written down here, this is the cutest that Alexander has ever been or ever will be. He is very cute in this episode.
I actually did kind of chuckle out loud when, after seeing this montage of kid Mission Impossible Home Alone style, mission.
Yeah.
It ends very casually with Alexander like coming out of the classroom and he's like, I found this on the floor. Is it yours? And it's one of the comm badges, which is supposed to send the Ferengi to the transporter room. But I just love that because that to me is like the most realistic.
Because he's the only one that's an actual kid.
For a kid to be like, is this yours? And instead of this like very clever, like, we're going to go through the Jeffrey tubes and then tap on the glass and you're going to do this. And so I just love how like not climatic that is compared to all the other moves that they're doing.
Yes. I mean, this episode's really unrealistic.
It took us this long to get to that.
It's just really, I just don't think it's possible for it to happen in the real world, But anyway, very, very fun. Also, like another transporter accident that, again, like we don't know what happens behind the scenes in fictional Starfleet, but like, are they going to research this at all? Or they're just
really, it does seem like there's some good like medical use possibly to this.
Right?
Or again, like,
or like, what if somebody else runs into this anomaly and it happens to them too? Don't we want to know like why it happens? We can avoid it. I don't know. Like, it just seems like they're like, oh, this happens. We're just going to fix it for these people, and then no research.
Well, there's also like episodes where people try to kind of find like the fountain of youth, so to speak. So you feel like there would be another episode they could explore where like someone's trying to utilize this technology in it, and it goes horribly wrong. Like that
sounds like something the Ferengi would be after.
For profit.
Yeah, for profit. Exactly. So yeah, weird, but also very much enjoy this episode.
Yeah, there's episodes that I really like because they're damn good episodes. And then there's ones that are just like a shitty cup of powdered hot chocolate where it's like, I know it's not the best, but you know what? I just want it and it comforts me.
It feels good. It's just like a bunch of fun hijinks in the same way that you were saying that Home Alone is. Just less violent.
Yeah, I kind of almost like if they went that route. I kind of wish they went full Home Alone.
Right? Give those kids some phasers.
Give them a blowtorch, tar and feather, and
Oh God, no way.
Man, so we just keep leading up to Tuvix going, fucking Tuvix, man. This feels like it would be wacky Star Trek, but on paper it does. Because basically the premise of this episode is Tuvok and Neelix.
Oh, and we're in Voyager territory.
Oh, God,
now.
Yes, thank you. So we're in Voyager.
So here we are. If you've never seen Voyager, we're like dropping names and you're like, what? This is now we're on Voyager season 2.
Yes.
Season 2, episode 40.
And this is an episode I thought would be later.
40th episode. It's the 24th episode of the second season of Voyager.
This is way earlier than I would have guessed. So I keep messing up where my episodes are, which is kind of crazy from memory. But basically, you have two characters. They're on a planet. They're getting some flower samples who come back on board with their flower samples, and there's a transporter accident. They get merged into one being. Now, before we start, Larissa, I will say you have a glass of wine in front of you. Not blood wine, just wine, because it's something we like. Preparing for this episode, and especially this episode of our podcast, but also this episode of Star Trek, we have the name Tuvok, Neelix, and Tuvix, and my mind gets jumbled. So this is like a drinking game. Whenever you mess up a name, you got to take a drink.
Oh my God, I love it.
You can join us if you want to, unless you're driving. Don't do that. Yeah. It's irresponsible.
Please don't if you're driving.
So basically, they get joined, and they're trying to figure out how to restore Tuvok and Neelix throughout this episode. And in the meantime, he's kind of finding his place on his ship, this new hybrid character, until they get the technology. And then Janeway decides, okay, we're going to split you. And he says, hey, guess what? I've been around for a couple of weeks. I don't want to die. And then ultimately, Janeway says, I'm going to force you to split, and we're going to get Neelix and Tuvok back. And that's what happens. And we know they have to come back because Ethan Phillips and Tim Russ have contracts. And again, this is back when TV, it was very episodic, and we have to reset everything by the end. So we know in 45 minutes we're going to get Tuvix and then we're gonna have to split up and get the original Tuvok and Neelix back. And this episode was supposed to have a different ending.
Ooh, I don't know about this.
Yes. Okay. So I forget if it's Wikipedia or Memory Alpha that I read this, but allegedly the ending was more of a what you would imagine. Tuvix actually decides to basically volunteer to be separated and restored to Tuvok and Neelix. But then, I don't know who said this. I meant to look it up. But somebody on the staff was like, hey, what if we changed it up and Tuvix doesn't feel like going back? Wouldn't that be interesting? And I give him credit because it is interesting, but
it has also generated so many memes.
And also, this is a lot of people.
And like Janeway's a murderer. And
you go online. Yeah. In this episode, people are very divided on whether Janeway did the right decision or not. And we will get into that.
Oh my God.
So but I feel like we're not here to convince anyone of one way or the other.
No, I just want to know how you feel about it.
Sure. Because when it comes to the writing, did they connect the dots and take us there in a satisfactory way? Or did it get kind of like a little clunky the way it happens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm taking a drink of this wine, even though I haven't messed up any names yet.
Yes, you can also just enjoy the wine. I'm going to do the same thing.
I'm just going to start saying names wrong so I can drink wine.
Right. What happens is that, you have, again, Neelix and Tuvok. They're put together.
You said Neelix.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my God.
That's an entirely new name, too, Neelix.
Neelix? That's not even like, Jesus Christ. Oh, my God. Yeah, good thing we saved this for the last one.
I love it.
Janeway ends up dividing Tuvix, who, when these two characters are merged into Tuvix, for you listener, if you don't know, they kind of established very early on in the beginning part. It's the science lab. It's not the sick bay, but it's the science lab. He's talking to Kes, and Kes is like, are you of two minds? Is Neelix and Tuvok in there like talking to each other?
Right.
Are they trying to talk to me? And Tuvix says, no, I have their memories, and I'm physically I'm a component of both, but I'm my own consciousness.
Yeah.
So
he's literally a new life form.
Yeah, and he even I appreciate the fact that the writers towards the end, one of the arguments that Tuvix gives when he's trying to plead for his life basically is he's like, I think of them as my parents. And I feel like what happens is when people perceive this episode, half people say it's okay that she split Tuvix because it's sort of like the need of the many outweigh the need of the few.
Right.
So Tuvix versus
the whole
versus
ship.
Tuvok and Neelix.
Yes, and Kes and the bridge crew and
kind of. Although I think that's kind of...
Because Kes also says that she wants Neelix back.
She does.
Because, there's that...
Yes. Which I actually have a problem with that part of the argument. That they have family and friends and that makes their lives more valid than...
Right. It doesn't.
Because, I'm a mom. I have a child. You don't. Do I have any more right to live?
Right.
Just because I have a child and you don't?
I have a cat.
Yeah. And Walter is a very cool cat.
And he needs me.
So anyways,
I've convinced myself that he needs me.
We're getting distracted, but one of the points she makes is like they have friends and family who love them. And it's like, well, that's kind of a shitty thing to tell someone that they have less worth because they may not have as many friends or family. And then some people say, hey, look, Tuvix is just like a effect of this accident. Like basically Tuvok and Neelix might as well just have like died in a shuttle accident. And then Tuvix just like appears. He's just like some strange byproduct. Right. And he has rights just like Hugh or Lal or Data or other people we've seen in Star Trek things.
The exocomps.
Yeah. And I think for me, I think I've pinpointed why this issue is so divisive is because it really depends if the viewer is looking at this from a perspective of Tuvok and Neelix are to be saved or if they are to be resurrected. Because those are two very different things.
Right.
Yeah, I think that might be somewhat of a flaw of the writing.
In a way, yeah. I mean, I also think that this is the most interesting transporter accident in all of Star Trek.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why it's so divisive because it is weird. I mean, it's not just like here's a person that's now two people. It's here's two people and they're now one person. So that question that you're asking, are Tuvok and Neelix gone?
Yeah, and that seems to be the holdup.
Yeah.
For people. If they think he's gone, it's a whole different moral issue than the people and the fans who say he's just in there the way someone might be stuck in like a the holodeck buffer and like Armand Bashir. Yeah. But obviously we're talking about a computer versus a sentient being, which is Tuvix. Which that's like
we're talking about a computer that has taken DNA from 3 different life forms, because the reason they stick together is
the flower,
is the orchid that is created a new form of life. So to me, Tuvix is new life, and that's what Starfleet's about, is discovering new life. So the choice that they made to make it non-consensual is really painful. It feels like the writers holding these characters hostage. Like the writers are the ones that are forcing Janeway to do this. Like I don't feel like Janeway would do that.
Well, and it's interesting because I want to make sure.
Also, Janeway is written strangely.
That is one of the things I hear fans talk about is Voyager, and especially Janeway, there's a lot of inconsistencies to the writing.
Because they didn't know how to write for a woman captain. They didn't know how to. They were trying to make her tough, but they were also trying to make her soft. And they were like, they were trying to balance it, and they weren't doing it right.
Also, I think you have the problem of you have actual, writers that are on the writing team. And then you have people who are submitting scripts outside as freelancers or and so I think it's also just maybe sometimes things fell between the cracks.
Exactly.
Yeah. So going back, like here, this is one of the things, Larissa, you and I cannot win when we talk about this because we're gonna piss.
There's no way
off.
to win. There's no way to win with this episode. This episode. It hurts. This episode hurts in every way. It's awful. It when they're pulling him off the bridge and he's like begging for his life. It's like, no, oh my God. Like, how can you do this to someone when they're like screaming for their life? They're begging for their life. Like here, like he goes up to Tom and Tom's like, ah. I'm just like, all of you for real. Like I am on Tuvix's side in all of those scenes.
Okay, so now we're getting, because I was wondering, like, I'm sure people are like, so what did they think? So if we made shirts, you are Team Tuvix.
I'm Team Tuvix. Like, it just seems wrong.
I have to admit I'm Team Tuvix too. For me, it would be different if it was something where like you had a third being, but it was obvious that there was like a consciousness of the other two.
This is such a complicated episode.
It is. And that's why I think it's almost like when I go online and I find better arguments being made by the fans than the arguments that are given by the characters.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, all right, like I shouldn't be getting these like, oh, I didn't think about that moments from it's like we joke about like writing ideas for the show, but when Joe Schmo online comes up with a better argument for why Janeway should split it up than the actual episode,
writers did,
then that's where I have a problem, where it's like, okay,
yeah,
I think people talk about this so much because maybe it got a little clunky and just kind of sudden at the end. It was like, hey, we got 5 minutes left, we gotta move this episode.
Yeah, so he's got like 3 minutes to fight for his life, and then we just got to do this, okay? The other thing about it that makes it so hard to not be on Tuvix's side is that the actor they got to play him is awesome.
Tom Wright is great. I couldn't remember if they actually had one of the, Tim Russ or Ethan Phillips play.
But like
Tuvix.
they got this guy who like with the makeup on looks like both of them.
I think Tom Wright did an awesome job, and I guess I found out from my research that Tom Wright actually knows Tim Russ pretty well from the acting world because they often would audition for the same roles.
That's really, really cute.
And he had worked with Ethan Phillips before and other things, so it just happens to be but I thought
the makeup on him is great. Like he does a beautiful job of like he's the right shape. Like everything about him is right.
And the physicalities and the inflections of the voice, and he does I feel like a good job of really melding the two characters. So
you act the problem then is you kind of grow to love him.
And that's kind of one aspect of the episode too, is that he ends up being a better chef than Neelix. Mm-hmm. And they kind of mention in a way he's almost a superior tactical officer because he follows the intuition of a non-Vulcan humanoid, basically. That he says at one point, he's like, I had a hunch, so he solves the problem quicker. I guess I'm going to segue a little bit into other episodes of Star Trek, because this is where I feel like maybe comparing it to some other things about Star Trek starts to show some of the holes in the writing. So let's go to that scene. That's one of my favorite scenes, by the way, where there's 2 lines I love. I don't want to die. And also, doesn't anyone see that this is wrong?
Oh, God, it's so painful.
And it's like, nope. And I just think...
And, like, everyone's just, like, looking at their feet.
Well, and it's weird because if you go back to Hugh and Iborg...
Yeah.
You have legitimate concern for people to not trust or want a Borg on the ship.
Right.
Between Guinan and Picard and just like all the whole crew, basically, because he's a Borg.
But also Hugh had an advocate. Like, Hugh had more than one advocate.
He does.
Tuvix doesn't have an advocate.
But Tuvix is supposedly friends of everyone. Even Chakotay's like, I count myself one of his friends.
Yeah.
And like Kes...
Well, his advocate is the doctor. The doctor, because the doctor refuses to perform the procedure.
He's the only one who opposes it. Yeah. He says, I will not harm a patient.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like, everyone's just sort of quiet on the bridge when Neil... okay, I gotta take a drink. When Tuvix is pleading for his life, and it's such a contradiction when you think about Hugh, who at the end has Geordi Crusher, even Guinan and Picard come around, and they're like, we're not comfortable.
Yeah, like Beverly from the beginning is like, this is a living thing.
This is my patient.
This is my patient. I've already made a commitment. I'm a doctor. I'm not going to let him die.
Yeah.
Like from the top of the episode, there's somebody fighting for him. And with Tuvix, it's like everyone's just like,
So that's just kind of like a weird thing.
It's so weird.
And
they're like, he's my friend, but I'd rather have my other friends back.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's fucked up. That's the thing about it. Okay, that's the thing about the episode that fucks me up the most is that everyone is an asshole.
Like, no one has a problem with it, which I feel like there'd be somebody who's like, hey guys, maybe I don't know.
Like, he is so alone, and like he's written in this way, and he's played beautifully by Tom Wright. Like, he's written in this way that like is supposed to make you love him, and then you do love him, and then they kill him, and then everyone's like, oh, okay, oh cool. And then everything's back to, it's just like, what?
and then next week on
like, you
Voyager,
wrote him for me to love him, and now you're going to just kill him?
And I'm sure that's supposed to be, some people would say like, well, that's what makes this decision harder.
Well, yeah, but it's also what makes this decision so fucked up.
Yeah, and obviously if it was just like he was an asshole, then
if he sucked,
it would be much easier.
It would be it would be easier, but also it morally would not be right if he if he wasn't consenting to the procedure.
So yeah,
and there's also no follow up with Neelix and Tuvok at the end being like, so do you remember any of that?
I totally thought we were gonna have a scene with at least Janeway and Tuvok having tea,
right,
like in her room that night, and Tuvok somehow talking to her about it, like consoling her. And I just wish some of the arguments in the episode were as strong, because Janeway, there's never at any point where I'm really like, oh, maybe I didn't think about that. Maybe we should divide Tuvix. But again, I think that goes back to whether you think this is about saving Neelix and Tuvok, resurrecting them. And those are, that's kind of like different issues.
Yeah.
Because also, I had just asked you if you saw the episode, I think it's just called Phage, which is the fourth episode.
They take his lungs out.
Yeah. One of the Vidians, who, if you don't know these characters, they're a race of aliens that are basically, their species for hundreds and hundreds of years have been ravaged by a virus. And they look very Frankenstein ragdoll-esque, because what they have to do is steal organs from other alien species to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. They basically like steal and salvage other organs. They harvest them. That's what they call them. It's like an organ harvest thing. I love the idea.
You want the backstory? You can watch Star Trek Insurrection.
Yeah. I love the idea of that species, by the way. So Neelix has his lungs stolen by one of these aliens. And then when they finally catch up to them, they're like, they say, give us the lungs back. They have like hologram lungs and Neelix.
Give us the lungs back.
What the hell? Give us the lungs back. And they say, hey, we already put them in this guy. And Janeway just says, well, my morals don't allow me to kill you to save my crewmen. Even though this alien has just stolen Neelix's lungs. So that's...
Oh my God. And yet I didn't even think about that. Holy shit.
I have to admit, someone brought that up in my research, and I was like, that's a
really good point.
Just
and
with
also,
the
are we just like shitting on Neelix all the time? Like, we're just shitting on Neelix. You guys, just for the record, I really like Neelix.
Also, I have to admit, like,
y'all can shut the fuck up.
I like this episode. This is another.
I do.
Fun...
This is a fantastic episode.
Yeah, as much as we're talking about maybe the
writing is clunky or like questionable. Yeah.
You know, this is another episode I was like genuinely excited to watch.
Yes.
Because of Tom Wright, and the premise is very fun.
The premise is this is like why I watch Star Trek. This kind of shit. Like the kind of shit that's like all the way out there sci-fi that like would never come up for any reason in like any other genre. Two people get transported, technology that does not exist, and they become one thing, something that has never happened.
Yeah.
It's all the what if. It's all the imagination. That's why this episode is so much fun and also so like what?
Yeah. Also, another thing I wanted to bring up was just like an episode that I think does a really good job of kind of like that gray area. But what I really want to talk about was Measure of a Man, which is the season 2 episode of Next Generation where Data is basically, that's where they decide Data has rights.
Yeah, and that he's sentient.
And he's a sentient being.
It is one of the most... It's widely regarded as one of the best episodes of Star Trek.
What I love about that episode is obviously we're rooting for Data from the very beginning. There's no question about that. You know?
Oh, yeah.
But what I like is that there's moments throughout the episode where...
Maddox,
thank you. Yeah. Where Maddox makes good points to oppose this goal, or even Riker when he has his dramatic...
when he like turns him off and he like takes off his arm.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh shit, they're making good points. Like, I want Data to win and stuff, but like, how are we going to convince them?
Yeah. There's that one scene too where Riker's like looking stuff up on the computer, and you see his face. Yeah. Like you see him smile, like, oh, I just figured something out, and then he realizes
what that means for his friend.
So that's like a very nice Jonathan Frakes acting moment. Congratulations, Jonathan Frakes, on that moment. I liked it.
Golf clap.
Yep.
But so again, for me with this Tuvix, it's a fun episode. I really like the premise. But when you see kind of moments in Star Trek history where I feel like they really managed that gray area better. Mm-hmm. It feels like Tuvix, unfortunately, in the last act kind of fell short.
Yeah, missed the mark.
With the argument.
If we had more of Tuvix interacting with Janeway, or at least as much of Tuvix interacting with Janeway as we saw of Tuvix interacting with Kes, because like for all intents and purposes, Tuvok's best friend on the ship is Janeway. And yeah, Neelix's best friend on the ship is Kes. Yeah. So like we get a lot of Kes Tuvix time, but we don't get any real Janeway Tuvok time. I can't believe I said all the names right. I'm still drinking. For me to wrap up, I totally understand why Bones and Barclay and Pulaski hate the transporter.
Oh yeah,
because that shit is scary.
Right.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't participate. I'm pretty sure, knowing myself, that I would be like, get me in that transporter. Let's go. But at the same time, it is a huge risk, and everyone is always downplaying it all the time. They're always like, it's just a transporter, and here's Bones like, absolutely not. I will not do that. And with good reason. Like, come on. It's horrifying.
Out of all the accidents we've talked about, which for you, if you had to have a transporter accident happen to you, what would you want? Turn to a kid, doubled, or combine yourself with me?
Oh, that could be fun.
And I thought about this. Like, our name isn't very exciting because it's Lauren and Larissa. We basically share
a lot of
so
letters.
It would be like, it's like our first names pretty much start the same.
Larissa.
So it would be Larissa.
Larissa, which is what my whole dad's side of the family calls me. Larissa, with like their Midwestern accent. Lala.
So which one?
We would be so good at so many things. Like, we would be extra good at Star Trek.
Or extra bad. It kind of depends on your opinion after listening to us.
Yeah.
I think I would be doubled, and I would be a lot nicer to my double.
So this is interesting. I was a twin in the womb. I was a twin. And I absorbed my twin.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Creepy and disgusting. But that interests me a lot because I often wonder what my life would be like if I had not absorbed my twin.
What's your middle name?
Maria.
Mine's Marie. That's kind of weird. So should we call your double Maria?
Yeah, my double's Maria and your double's Marie.
All right.
But like interesting to think about like what that would be like. I think as well, same, that I would be like a lot kinder to my double.
Yeah.
But also I'm sure that I would see things in myself that would, especially if like it was just like, you know, somebody split off from adult me instead of like a different person that grew up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I feel like I would probably be like, oh my God, shut up.
Do I really talk that much?
Do I really talk that much? Yes, I do.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps up.
That wraps up our very first episode of Into the Wormhole. And boy, did we go into the wormhole.
The wormhole. Yeah, I think we're going to make sure we keep it a little more concise next time. But we thank you for following us down here, and hopefully you can get out.
Yeah, hopefully, you can have a conversation with the wormhole aliens and everything's going to be okay. And we'll see you next time. Maybe we'll be in the Gamma Quadrant. Maybe we'll be in the Delta Quadrant. Maybe we'll be in the Alpha Quadrant. We don't know. Find us in the collective at intothewormhole.show, on Instagram at intothewormhole.podcast. Into the Wormhole is brought to you by We Own This Town.
She likes plants.
She likes plants, y'all.
She's a plant lady.
She spends a lot of time in the Arboretum. 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 A lot of time in the Arboretum.